God's love, elevating, energizing, empowering. Miracles happen when you know that you are loved. Peter Youngren has communicated God's love with millions from every religion and culture. Get ready for your ultimate life because you are loved.
Great to be with you today. I'm glad you tuned in. We got lots for you. You can always contact us with prayer requests. If you want to receive our magazine, we're offering that for free. Here is a look at the very latest issue, and lots of exciting material there. And there will be other things at the lower part of the screen. Also, you can text me. And today you may have some opinion about what we're going to talk about, and you may want to say something or make a comment, and maybe we'll read it on the air at some time. Pastor Nathan Thurber, lead pastor here at the Toronto Celebration Church, is with me today. Good to see you, Nathan.
Good to see you too.
In fact, your wife, who is on maternity leave, was supposed to be here with me today.
She was.
But the baby has been a little bit...
Baby's 5 months old, doesn't always cooperate.
And of course, it was kind of mean of me to ask your wife to leave maternity leave, but she was quite willing, actually. So
she was excited. She loves being on. So.
Well, of course, I've been working with you and Megan for so many years. I wouldn't have asked her if I didn't know she wouldn't be willing. The national election in Canada is over. Some of the emotions are still there. We saw a somewhat divided country. But I'm not here to discuss politics per se. One issue came up during the election in the first French debate. It came up in press conferences and came up throughout the whole election: abortion. And sometimes I feel, and I think others with me, whenever the issue of abortion is raised, it's like whoever talks about that is some crank ill person who just want to shove their religion down your throat, so to speak, well, keep watching. Nathan, on a Sunday morning, I recently addressed this, and any comments you have from that service, because we're going to see a little clip of it later on, but what did you think of that?
Well, I think our church very much, first of all, they were shocked to hear you say it, because those who have heard you preach much have come to recognize you often don't talk about political matters because you want to reach people of all different political persuasions. Many people view the topic of abortion as something of a political nature, and so shocked to hear you speak about it. I think in our church it was well received. I don't know how online, on social media, you posted it, you posted it live on Facebook. I don't know how that all turned out, but why did you do that, Pastor Peter?
Well, as you said, I want to keep, whenever I'm preaching, whatever country I'm in, I don't address politics. It's not because I don't have an opinion about it. It's just because I want to reach everybody. Whatever political party, whatever persuasion, I have something more important than politics, which is the gospel. However, in our nation of Canada, there's approximately, give or take a few thousand in either direction, 100,000 abortions annually. And to me, I think Canadians are very good people, but I think Canadians, believers and unbelievers, are very uninformed about this issue of abortion. And we think that we are just like the rest of the Western countries, and we are not. And to think that these are the least, the unborn child who is viable in the womb, in the third trimester, has no legal rights, to me is abhorrent. And even though I realize I will be accused of being a Bible thumper or whatever, I wanted to address it, and that's why we're talking about it today. Maybe before you have some more comments from that message, let's show this little 4-minute clip from the sermon. Now remember, we aired this on Facebook Live, but later on when I tried to air this 4-minute clip, it was censored by Facebook. So hold on to your seats. Censored by Facebook. Here it is. I would say, I think Christians and non-Christians, churchgoers and non-churchgoers, by and large, not everybody, is under a huge misconception in our country. I believe Canadians are basically very good people, and I'll get to why I say that in a moment. I think there's a huge misconception. I think many people would say to me, Peter, what can we do about it? The whole world is pro-choice, all the countries that Canada associates with, whether Germany or Italy or France or Netherlands or Australia or the US or Russia, whoever, the whole world is going pro-choice. So of course, our nation is also going pro-choice. We can't stop that. That's where we're wrong. Canada, in its policy on abortion, is nothing like the UK or Germany or France or Australia or even the United States or Italy or the Netherlands. No. Canada, those other countries, Germany, France, etc., they also consider themselves pro-choice countries. But don't think that Canada is anything like those countries called the G7, the G20 nations that we associate with in trade, and different summits are held every year. You know, Canada is nothing on the issue of abortion like those countries. So which countries are like Canada? North Korea has the same stand on abortion as Canada. China and Cuba. Those are countries that are in our baskets of nations. Many people, whether they call themselves pro-life or pro-choice, don't even know that. So what is the difference? Those other countries, from Germany to the UK to Spain to Italy to Australia, they recognize that we need to protect the unborn in the third trimester. There needs to be some legal right for the unborn in the third trimester. We have known, at least since 2005, studies show us that 90% of all babies that are born in the 25th week and after, in other words, at the very beginning or the end of the second trimester, beginning of the third trimester, 90% of babies born since that live. So we have actually learned scientifically that life is very viable after the 25th week. Some cases even quite a bit earlier than that. But I'm using very safe scientific information. And so it's not that those countries that I listed, those European countries or countries that we feel are like us democratically, etc., that they are somehow, more Bible believing, or that they are, in fact, in many ways, they are less. There are countries that has far less churches and less church attendance than we do in Canada. But they have recognized the scientific evidence. Okay, 40 years ago, we didn't realize that the human life was viable. At 25 weeks, at 90% would live. We didn't realize that. So we had certain laws, but now that science has shown us something different, well, let's adjust. Let's recognize that there is a breathing person with a heart that beats. Well, Pastor Nathan, what say you?
Well, can I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
You mentioned, and I'm sure some of the viewers may be asking similar questions. Maybe they'll be texting you on the text number you said earlier, but you mentioned abortion laws in other countries. Tell us about them.
Well, of course, in the Sunday morning service, I wasn't there to give a whole bunch of stats, but I have some here that I wanted to share today. For example, in Germany, abortion is permitted in the first trimester. Just abortion on demand, and after that, based on medical necessities. In Netherlands, abortion was legalized, allowing abortion on demand until the 21st week, and for medical reasons till the 24th week. In England, Scotland, and Wales, it can be, there's limit on abortion except in cases of a fetal abnormality or the risk of life. The limit is 24 weeks, but after, if there's some special case, then after that, there can be an abortion. In Spain, it's legal during the first trimester. In Australia, it's legal only when 2 doctors have certified that the termination is necessary to protect the life or the health of the pregnant woman. In Sweden, which is a very secular country, abortion is allowed if the fetus is viable, which means 22 weeks. So even though I said 25 weeks there, there's still more than 50% of babies born after 22 weeks, which is not even at the end of the second trimester. And so they cut it right there. And then it can be in rare cases afterwards. In France, it is basically 14 weeks after the last menstrual period. And so every one of these countries, Russia even, 12 weeks, recognize scientifically, not, again, I say it's not because they are adhering to the Bible. I wish they were, but that's not the point. And I want to tell Canadians, when we talk about Canada should look at the abortion law again, yes, there are scriptural reasons. I could quote the Bible, but I'm not doing that right now. And I suggest when you talk to your neighbors and friends about it, you know, if you start quoting the Bible, they say, oh, that's you're just trying to give your religion. No, there are scientific reasons. There's reasons why these countries protect the unborn in the third trimester, because that is a viable life. And I wish we had a politician. I wish we have some who are personally pro-life, and I appreciate that so much, but I wish we had politicians who dared to say, Canadians, we need to get back to the books and look at this again, because science has shown us in studies, you know, in the last 20 years about the viability of the unborn child. So I think Canadians would respond to that.
Yeah, and that might make some on both sides of the argument a bit angry with you to hear that. I think sometimes we as Christians, maybe we wrestle with the absolute versus compromise. It would seem almost that you're suggesting a sense of compromise on this issue. Do you have examples from that, from the scriptures or even other countries, how others have handled this perhaps? Because I think that's something many Christians wrestle with. Compromise versus being absolute on an issue. And many would think abortion is an absolute matter.
And I agree. When it comes to the Bible, when it comes to the gospel, I believe in the absolute power and of God, and I believe that life is sacred. In politics, however, I do not equate politics with my belief in the gospel of Jesus Christ, and I do believe that politics is the art of compromise. If we're going to wait till we have a perfect abortion law, which at this time we have no abortion law, then it's not going to happen. And that was the mistake of the Canadian Parliament in 1988, where many voted against an abortion law because it wasn't perfect. It wasn't as righteous, as biblical as they thought it should be. But because of that, thousands, arguably, of unborn babies that could have lived have died since 1988. And so, no, to me, I'm not compromising. I'm facing reality. We are living in a world that's a secular world. It's a secular world, and that may hurt some people when I say that. And so let's get the best possible. Let's limit the killing of the unborn. To me, life is sacred. Life begins in the womb. And I don't know if you want to ask me about any Bible verses here, but I'm ready to go for that as well if you want me to, you know.
Bible examples, and also as well, it's good to learn from what others do. You're a man who's traveled the world, and you were born in another country than Canada. Do you have examples from other countries of how Christians have handled this matter as well?
I see I wasn't adhering to your questions as good as I could have been, because you know, it's a big topic to discuss here in a few minutes, but I was thinking here of Psalm 139. To me, this is a powerful reason why we are pro-life, why we believe life begins at conception. It says, you formed me in my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret. And take that together with Genesis 1:26. God said, let us make people in our own image. So to me, that's why I'm pro-life. I believe in the sacredness of every life. And we Christians aren't the only ones. Hindus believe in that. There are others. And on this issue, we who agree on this need to come together and tell our politicians, even if the politicians don't believe the Bible. And that's where someone would say, I'm compromising. You know, Paul compromised then all the time. Paul, you know, think about all the things he says that we should obey the laws of the land, obey authority. It wasn't because those authorities were doing everything right, but he realized he lives in a fallen world. He lives in a world that is secular. In his case, it was in the Roman Empire and its laws. And so as much as possible, he is pushing. He's even saying one time to a man who's about to torture him, don't you know I'm a Roman? So he's pushing with all his might to uphold the laws that are available. And in our country, we still have human rights, and we are saying we want to apply those human rights. Best would be to every life from conception, but at least let's do what the rest of the Western world, the civilized world, is doing. Let's do it to the unborn in the third trimester.
So I mentioned you're probably making people on both sides of the argument a bit maybe angry with you. Those who are absolute versus
Well, if
compromise.
they stay to the end of the program, I think you'll have a question that I will address what we are supposed to do in a secular society.
On the other side of the coin, though, there's the politically correct aspect of our society. How do you view that? Many view abortion a very taboo subject. Even our politicians really don't like to talk about it that much, I suppose. But it's also preachers. I mentioned to some people, that you were talking about this, and they were kind of surprised and shocked. They hadn't heard many preachers here in Canada talking about it. So why now, and why take on such what people consider a politically incorrect topic?
No doubt, it's like I'm asking for trouble. There's a suffocating political correctness, and I'm just revolting against it. I'm saying, no, I'm not going to put up with this. There's a lot of unborn children, the very least, whatever you've done for the least, you've done for me, Jesus said. They can't defend themselves. And so this is not mixing politics and religion. This is speaking out for human life, and it transcends any political issue. And that's why I would like to have a politician not just say, oh yeah, I'm pro-life, but it won't affect my voting in Parliament. Could we have a politician that says we need a law in our country, and I'm pro-life, I believe in the sanctity of life, but we're not going to force others. That's not doable in our society. But not be so afraid, so shy, and try to just brush it under the table. That's what I'm looking for.
I see. Well, that's good to know. Also, no time is short. So you said most Canadians you believe are good. That's very optimistic. Also that they would be willing to take a second look at this topic of abortion if they knew the facts. And yet polls seem to indicate the opposite. Where do you get that knowledge
Well, when you
from?
ask a Canadian in a poll, would you like Parliament to reopen the abortion discussion? Most Canadians will say no, because in their mind, anybody who has a contrary opinion to the status quo is a cranky person. That's why I wanted your wife, or at least we have two men here now, so that goes against us. And she was willing to come, but your child has been a little bit not resting so well. So anyhow, be that as it may. So you're a good stand-in there. Interesting, there was a poll in Canada, the Environics poll, where they told a little bit about the facts, about the viability of life from the 25th week or even the 22nd week, well into the second trimester, but before the third trimester. And when Canadians knew that, 72% in that poll said that there should be some law to protect the unborn. So I think Canadians make their assessment on the issue based on lack of information rather than based on information, because it's such a taboo topic, like you said, that people are afraid to talk about it. So nobody really, people think, oh, we must be just like the UK or Spain, or no, we're not. We are, as I said in that clip, Canadian abortion law is no law. And in that, we are like North Korea, China, and Cuba. We're not like most of the Western world.
Well, I think people are going to have questions for you. You mentioned your text line earlier. I think people should text you their questions.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll even do another program on it, but I can't speak for you. Is there a solution? Is there a political solution in your mind? What should we as Christians do in your mind?
My hope is not in a parliament, or whether it be in one of the provincial capitals or in Ottawa. That's not my hope at all. That's not what I'm addressing this. The ultimate hope is the gospel of Jesus Christ transforms the heart. And I say this, first of all, if somebody has had an abortion, just like God forgives slander, gossip, lying, whatever, the blood of Jesus Christ was shed to remove the sins of the world. But my hope is, as if people receive the gospel, Jesus Christ becomes real in people. Maybe that young lady who became pregnant, She got into a situation, and now she has an unwanted pregnancy. My hope would be that that young lady would just pray, say, God, help me. I want to know you, and I want to serve you, Lord, and you live inside of me. And she would open her heart to let the Holy Spirit speak to her. That's my hope. And the more Christ is proclaimed across our country, I think the more times that an unwanted pregnancy is there, someone will respond like that instead of with shame. And then we as a church, we have to be very careful, because the church has been known to condemn. Someone who gets an unwanted pregnancy, they kind of have been shunned by churches, at least in the past, and maybe still today. So we have to have our act together. But that's my hope. But meanwhile, I want the best possible in politics. But to me, the answer is not politics. The answer is Jesus Christ. Does that make sense?
I think so,
Okay.
yes.
Well, we have, let us hear what you think about this. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But I want you to watch something. We're switching gear, and then we're going to come back to Nathan and myself. Watch this.
8 billion people. The spiritual needs are enormous. More voices than ever are vying for our attention. But there is hope. A worldwide spiritual awakening. Millions from every culture are about to be enlightened with the truth of Christ.
No religion, no denomination has monopoly on Jesus Christ. He's for the whole world.
The Global Gospel Institute is a unique program of mentoring and impartation to take you from where you are now into your ministry. For more than 4 decades, Peter Youngren has seen unprecedented breakthroughs in areas of the world where many thought it was impossible. Through the Global Gospel Institute, modules 1 to 4, you will discover foundational gospel theology, a comprehensive worldview, and practical and spiritual keys to apostolic leadership. And more, you will receive help to move into your ministry. Say yes to God's call. Yes to be mentored. Yes to be a world shaker and a history maker. Enroll now in the Global Gospel Institute and step into your destiny.
Our mandate is to reach out and train many to share the gospel, because the gospel is ultimately the answer. This program was not a typical program for us. In fact, I don't think we've ever discussed this topic of abortion before. And so there you have what we really are involved with. We believe when people receive Christ and God's love is real to them, it will change how they approach 100, 1,000 different issues of life. And if you can help us, you saw some imagery from our international campaigns, and we need partners right now. We are doubling up 20 campaigns coming up in the next 12 months. Would you help us? And for those who help us, we are sharing a special gift. I've given this to presidents, to governors, to leaders in different countries. So watch this.
The Inukshuk is among the oldest objects placed by indigenous people across the vast Arctic landscape. It was the logo of the Vancouver Winter Olympics. Could this ancient landmark, seen from Alaska to Greenland, be a witness that points to Jesus Christ? The Inukshuk guided travelers across the treeless tundra. For those who had lost their way, it gave hope and direction, reminding of Christ, who is the way, the truth, and the life and hope of the world. The Inukshuk forms the sign of the cross, pointing to the reality that on the cross, Jesus puts away the shame, alienation, and guilt of all humankind. The Inukshuk speaks of our unity with Christ and with one another. If even one rock is pulled away, chances are high that the whole will collapse, a reminder that we are all interconnected and need one another. Peter Youngren often meets with presidents, governors, and prime ministers. Peter says, "I like to bring a gift that can be proudly displayed, but also a gift that sends a message of Jesus Christ." When you partner with World Impact Ministries in gospel campaigns, literature outreach, Bible schools around the world, media outreach, and a vision to reach the Earth's 7.5 billion people one at a time, you will receive this beautifully designed replica of an Inukshuk, mounted on a base inscribed with the powerful words, "His love never fails." Ask for this unique gift when you become a VIP partner, sharing $30 or more each month, or with your one-time gift for the gospel of $300 or more. Call now, 416-745-1820, or give online at peteryoungren.org. Your participation is urgently needed. And remember that those who bless Jesus and His gospel are blessed.
As you're watching this, we are in the Buddhist world. You can see a picture there of a campaign, I think it was in Yangon, the capital of Myanmar. So many tens of thousands of Buddhist people received Jesus. We really, really need your help, and we thank you. And if you could plant a seed of $300, I know that's a lot, that would be a huge help. But do what you can. If it's $10, $20, $100, but the very best if you become a VIP partner. We will send that to you. Just ask for it, and you will have it. And I tell you, the gospel is worth everything. Nathan, I think we're coming back to what is our focus? The gospel of Jesus Christ. But we did discuss the issue of abortion, and I hope we covered, and we did say, but I want to say it again, that if someone has had an abortion, and naturally there will be people who are watching this who have had an abortion. And I know Christians, I know Christian parents, ministers who encourage their children, their child to have an abortion, even though they would never have done it to somebody else because they felt so ashamed. So I understand that, but God can forgive, but at the same time, the gospel helps us to make better choices. I want to ask you, you and Megan, you have 2 little children now, and you kind of waited a long while before the children came. You've been married for a while. So has that made this discussion maybe even more real to you, or different, or you know, how do you see it, having just gone through 2 pregnancies?
Yeah, and the weight wasn't necessarily on our desire, or we struggled to have children, so, and we looked at adopting at one point. So that first of all, the joy of having a child. Secondly, the need maybe that we had faced of having an adoption. I'll say real quick, I think people that sometimes thinking about abortion, just knowing there's other options. I know my mother runs a crisis pregnancy center, and they're not on a soapbox condemning people or beating people up that may be unwanted pregnancy, but she's shared with me how just knowing that there are other options available, having a loving shoulder to talk on, has made a big difference in people's lives, and they've maybe sometimes changed their opinion of what they're going to do and have been very happy for it in the long term, with the joy of that child in their life.
That's interesting, and I recommend whatever part of the country you're in, there will be a crisis pregnancy center there. Maybe that could be a help to you if you're in that situation. But I would say, let's not be suffocated by political correctness. We are pro-life because every life is important and every person is made in God's image. We don't think that we can change our country with political changes in Ottawa or in our provincial capitals. We believe the gospel is the ultimate change. But at the same time, let's promote the best possible values. But most of all, I invite you to receive Jesus Christ and to know Him who loves you so very much. You are loved.
Thank you. Your participation makes this global gospel ministry possible. To share your prayer request or to help bring the gospel to those who have never heard it, call 416-745-1820. You can give at www.peteryoungren.org or send your gift to World Impact Ministries at P.O. Box 62039, RPO Victoria Terrace, North York, Ontario, M4A 2W1, or P.O. Box 433, Winchester, Kentucky 40392-9800. Together, let's give everyone a chance to know God's love in Jesus Christ.